and welcome back to the Ghoul Guides Association, the show where we, your Ghoul Guides, talk about all things Gothic pop culture. And today we are going back in for a So You Don't Like Horror, because it is the end of July and Mary has some more movies for us, don't you, Mary?
I do indeed, yes. So this is the podcast for everyone that likes horror but is maybe a little bit of a scaredy cat. So
like
if
me.
you want to, like Lauren, so if you want to find out if you can watch a certain film, a recent horror film, or if you think that you won't be able to watch it but you want to find out what happens in it, this is the podcast for you. And as a warning, there will be spoilers up ahead. So.
Yes. I feel like July is always quite a big horror month. Like summer horror seems to be quite a thing.
It is now. Yeah, it used to not be, because obviously summer used to be the kind of blockbuster month.
Yes.
So you'd have like your big action films, family films, superhero films. But more recently, yeah, like there are a lot of horror releases, and there are actually throughout the year quite a lot of good, up and coming horror films. So I'm enjoying it. Yeah, it's a good time for horror films.
Nice.
Yes. I guess we should also say we won't be talking about the recent 28 Years Later film, because we have done an extra special review episode of that film and its prequels. Yes. So we'll link that somewhere, it will be in the YouTube description and in the description of the podcast.
It's so doubly extra special because not only did we have a special guest, we got carried away and we talked for a really long time and we had to make it 2 episodes. Yes.
So watch out for part 1 and part 2 of our review deep dive into the British horror cult franchise that is 28 Days Later. So yeah, if you were expecting that in this episode, check out our other episode. Yeah, but don't worry, there's lots and lots of horror films coming up. And firstly, I want to start with a new section, which is Audience Recommends, because we get loads of people recommending stuff to us, and I think it's so fabulous. And I'm so grateful because they're, some of them are ones that I haven't seen and I'm adding them to my watch list. And some of them are ones that, like, I also agree, these are great. And sometimes you're like, yeah, I've seen this film, this is great. So we wanted to share all of those recommends. And just as a reminder, if you have any horror films that you want to recommend, just send us an email, leave us a message, send us a tweet. Or message us on Blue Sky with horror films that you think are good, or that you think are good for scaredy cats. And
any creepy kind of creepy goods.
Yes. So we'll give them a shout out in our audience recommend section. So to start with, Bethany has got back to us with some more films to recommend. First up, Tracy Moffat's The Devil, which is from 1933. And this is about ghosts and haunted pasts. And it's the first feature directed by an Australian Aboriginal woman. Ooh. I haven't seen this film, but I'm putting it on my to watch list. Then we have Jennifer Kant's The Babadook from 2014, which is another Australian film. And this time it's about grief and trauma. And I have seen this film and it's good. So I definitely would, add my name to that recommend. And then finally, Bethany recommends Dana Reed's Run, Rabbit, Run from 2023, which is a Netflix film. And this is also Australian. It's an Australian psychological horror. I haven't seen that film either, but again, on my to watch list. And then Marla has also sent us in some recommends. So we have Michelle Garza Cervera's Jesuera, the Bone Woman from 2022. Ooh. And this is a Mexican supernatural body horror film. Now, I think this was playing at festivals when I had COVID. So I think it was playing
when you had to miss Mayhem. Yeah.
I think it was playing at horror festivals and I missed it. So I have been wanting to watch this film. I know people have said that it's really, really good. So I'm really glad that you've brought it up again and reminded me that I still need to watch this film. And Marla's also recommended Paco Plaza's La Abuela, or The Grandmother, from 2021, which is also another supernatural body horror film. And this is a Spanish-French co-production. So
interesting.
I've not seen that film either, but I do like that. And I do love international horror films. So yeah, we're not just about British or horror or American, films here. I like horror films from all over the world. So yes, thank you, Bethany, and thank you, Marla, and to anyone listening, if you have any films that you want to recommend, just get in touch and let us know. And with that, it actually leads in quite nicely, because the first film that I want to discuss that I have seen recently, it's a recent release, is also an Australian film. So this film is Bring Her Back. Lauren, have you heard of this film?
No, I haven't, but we had an Aussie one last time as well, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yeah, the shark horror film. Did you hear? So this is directed by Australian filmmakers Danny Philippou and Michael Philippou, who are twins, and they they're also known together as Raka Raka.
Nice. Okay, that rings a bell.
Yes, because this is a follow-up to their earlier 2022 film, Talk to Me, which was their directorial debut. Talk to Me is essentially a contemporary, fresh take on ghosts, grief, and talking to the dead. But instead of using a Ouija board, the narrative centers on this kind of severed, embalmed hand. So you might have seen bells. Yeah, you might have seen
the poster with the hand.
The hand. It's very iconic, and essentially, I actually really liked Talk to Me. I thought it was really interesting, and like I say, a fresh perspective on this kind of thing, and also looking at like Gen Z and horror, and the internet, and how like the internet and kind of viral media can help to spread that kind of horror. So you had basically like groups of people who would gather in a room with this hand, and someone would sit in the middle, and then everyone would be filming them on their phones. And the person in the middle would take hold of this hand. You would say, "Talk to me," and then you would then, through the hand, be able to see spirits and communicate with them. And then, if the person holding the hands says, "I let you in," a spirit can then possess the person, and it's kind of like a little bit like a high, but then also it focuses on somebody who is using the hand to talk to a specific person. So it's really interesting, and I would definitely recommend that film if this is very much in that kind of grief and trauma film. Kind of thing. So if, like the Babadook, so if that is something that you're interested in, then I think this film, and also Bring Her Back, both two films I would recommend to you. So this film is, again, it's kind of staying with that kind of death, grief and trauma, and the afterlife, slightly different. So it centers on two step siblings who are moving into a foster home because their father has died in quite a horrific kind of way, and the older boy is almost 18, so he's almost going to age out of the foster system, and his stepsister is a little bit younger, probably about 13, 14, and she's partially sighted, so she's blind, and they're really close. He often, they rely on each other, and they've got quite a close bond. Initially, the foster people wanted to separate them, and they had a place for her. But the two like step siblings were like, no, we want to we want to stay together. And the idea was what I think they both wanted was that when the brother turns 18, he'll be able to then apply for guardianship. So I think they both kind of entered into this as a kind of, this will be a short-term foster where we can stick together and get through it. The person that they get placed with is an eccentric former counsellor called Laura, and she is played by Sally Hawkins.
Oh,
who I love Sally Hawkins.
yeah.
I love her in Persuasion.
Yes, I was just going to say, she's so good as Anne Elliot.
I love her in The Shape of Water. I think she's a fabulous actor. And I think her performance in this is really, really good. She is also, as she tells the children, fostering a mute boy who she calls Oliver or Ollie. And he has his head shaved. So if you've seen the trailers or the poster, that's Ollie, who you can see with his head shaved. And immediately you're kind of like, something's not quite right here.
Not right here.
Yeah. So Sally Hawkins tells the boy is Andy, and then the girl is Piper. She tells Piper, oh yes, he's got red hair. We can see, and Andy can see, not only does this boy not have red hair, but he's also got a shaved head, and he's looks and acts a bit strange.
Okay.
And then you also find out that Laura had previously had a daughter who a few years earlier had drowned in the pool outside.
Okay.
And her daughter was also blind and of a similar age to Piper. So yeah, if you can see where this is going and you're thinking, right, bring her back, I see.
Yeah.
Laura is someone who is grieving for her daughter and wants to bring her back and wants to, in some way, use Piper to do that. And it is, I mean, from the start of it, you're kind of like, in no way, in any functioning like foster system, should any children be placed with this woman. She's clearly still grieving, but also the room that Piper is given is her dead daughter's room.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
it's still decorated. It's pink the way that Piper wanted, the way that her daughter wanted it, and it's got her name as a pillow and all of this stuff. It doesn't have a door. It just has those beaded kind of things. And Andy, obviously, it's very clear that Laura does not care about Andy. She doesn't want Andy. His room has like a mattress in it. It's clearly been used for storage. It looks gross, and it's got like a sliding door that doesn't fully shut.
Right.
So I'm like, this would immediately be red flags to me. Has no one from the foster agency done a check of her house? Because I think, one, you need doors. Also,
is it set in Australia?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not familiar with the foster care system in Australia, but I don't know. It seems weird. But then I guess because she used to work there, she used to be a counsellor, I wonder if maybe because it's a foster thing and an adoption thing and because it's friends and that kind of thing.
And I guess, every foster system is desperate for people to be foster families. I guess I could, I mean, I know with films we're meant to kind of, what's it called? Suspend our disbelief to a certain extent. But then again, maybe the foster system is that badly staffed and supported.
Yeah.
And I guess I wouldn't be surprised.
It's one of those.
In case you couldn't tell from our accents, we are not from Australia.
We are not from Australia. No. I mean, it sets it up really well, and you're kind of thinking like, oh, what's happening here? I mean, I think it's quite obvious, especially once you find out that she has a dead daughter, that this is what she's doing. And she's watching all of these videos that are very weird, and they're almost like they look like a possession scene or some kind of exorcism scene. It's like one of those videotape things where there's a group of people in like a cave or something and lots of screaming and
so she's trying to basically force the foster daughter to be a host for the dead daughter.
Yes. So this is where we're going to enter into big spoilers. So if you don't want this film spoiled, skip ahead to the next film. But essentially, Sally Hawkins is not meant to be fostering a boy. In fact, the boy is not Ollie. He is a different boy altogether who has been missing for weeks because she kidnapped him. She has done a ritual where she has placed a demon inside of this boy. and the demon is hungry, and she is controlling him. So she's got like, she keeps putting these like white markers around the outside of her house, and to kind of limit where he's going. And there's a horrible bit where he keeps losing control, and he tries to eat anything that he can, including a table and including a knife, which really messes with his mouth, as you can imagine. It's horrible. We then discover that she's been keeping the body of her daughter in her outside freezer in like the garage or the shed. And what her plan is that when the time is right, this boy who is possessed by a demon will physically eat and consume her daughter, and then vomit that into Piper, who then will be possessed. It's a way of like,
transference.
Yeah. So it is definitely an interesting take on like possession, resurrection.
Yeah.
It's weird. And I think, I mean, like I say, it's worth watching for Sally Hawkins, just because I love Sally Hawkins.
She is great.
It's like, yeah. For me, I was a bit like, okay, all right. It was just like, sure, okay. But that is bring her back, essentially. So I would say if you're a scaredy cat, and especially if you don't like violence, this is maybe one to avoid, because as I say, like Oliver does do some weird stuff. And I should have written down the name of the actor that plays him, but the actor that plays him does a really amazing job. Very creepy. So kudos to that. It's maybe not my favorite film that I've watched.
Yeah, I could tell when you were describing it that like you weren't like enamored with it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like famously, the only horror film I've ever seen in the cinema was Skeleton Key, which is like a 2005 Kate Hudson movie. That is not great and has some really weird racist undertones. But one of the things in that is the fact that like these people are basically surviving by taking over the bodies of people and then luring in a younger person to possess and making it look like they've had a stroke, but it's actually the younger person is then trapped in their body. And I do think it is really interesting that possession narrative. So this is it's like slightly off topic, but I play a game called Genshin Impact, which is very, very popular. It's a popular online game. It's on, various different consoles. You can play it on your phone. It looks really cutesy and it's actually quite dark. And for a while I have been thinking I should really do an episode on it. It's approaching endgame status, so I might do it soon. But one of the storylines last year actually was that a woman there's this thing in the game called ley lines that have memories, basically she had kidnapped a child that was the same age as her dead daughter. And she is manipulating like the memories and things like that to try and replace her dead, like literally tear out the soul of this child and replace it with the soul of her dead daughter. And it's quite you don't realize at the beginning what's happening. It's quite an upsetting scene. And I think it's interesting that that's like two narratives in the last 2 years of particularly children, people using children to try and replace lost children. And then we've always had a lot of like, oh, she's treating me like her dead daughter, or like my mum's forcing me to be my dead sibling. Like that's been a constant narrative in the Gothic. I don't know if I have any hot take on that or any kind of like insight into why that might be happening, but I do feel like that's maybe not even the second time. I think there's another one that I've heard of recently, but really interesting that there's like these narratives of possession, and that possession is quite like it's also violence onto a child's body and disrespecting not only a living child but a dead child.
I wouldn't really, I guess it is kind of a possession film, but I would put it more into that category of grief and trauma.
Yeah, which most possession films are.
Yes, but I think more in the way that like the Babadook is about grief and trauma, and there's lots of films that where you know, recently especially, where they're quite dark, they're quite depressing, and it is about whether, you know, people haven't come to terms with their grief or that kind of thing. There's a bit of this in like Midsummer as well. You know, that where it's more about that as opposed to the kind of what we would traditionally think of as like a possession film
narrative.
Like that. So that in a way, most of the film is not about the possession. Ollie's being weird, and you're like, there's definitely something weird going on with him, and there are bits where he's creepy, but most of that takes place at the end. The majority of the film,
so you don't really know for the most of it.
Yeah, the majority of this film is there is if you are thinking of watching this film, things to look out for. Obviously, there's child abuse, and also there's discussion of domestic violence, and a lot of violence. So yeah, those would be my kind of warnings. There are a lot. It's getting a lot of good reviews, and I think it's because there are a lot of people that do like this kind of film, which, you know,
but not the most enjoyable horror watch for you.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So low on the Scaredy Cat watchability scale, and maybe middling on the Mary rating scale.
Yeah. So the next two films that I want to talk about are both slasher films. So they also might be quite low on the Scaredy Cat meter. But don't worry, because I have two really good retrospectives that you will be able to watch. So do stick around for that, or jump ahead if you're not into slashers. But yeah, the next one that I want to talk about is Hell of a Summer, which you might not have heard of, or maybe you have.
No, but I can imagine what it's going for from the title.
Well, it's written and directed by Billy Brick and Finn Wolfhard.
Oh.
Yeah, who also star in the film. So these actors, obviously, you know Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things, but the duo met on the set of Ghost Brothers. They met.
Ghost Brothers is not what you meant to say.
No, it's not. They met on the set of Ghostbusters.
I was just about to say, wasn't he also in Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
So it would be funny if they've met on Ghost Brothers, though.
Yeah.
It's one of Mary's favourite paranormal investigation shows.
It's my favourite paranormal investigation show. But
really
anyway,
wholesome.
They both obviously discovered that they had a love of horror, and so they wrote, directed, and star in this film. I think they did struggle to get like funding and stuff for it, because, you know, they're still quite young.
I was to say, they're quite young, aren't they? Finn Wolfhard's not very old.
No, but then at the same time, it's like, well, they especially for Finn Wolfhard, but both of them, they have been working in this industry.
Is Billy Brick the other kid from Ghostbusters then?
I think so.
Because there's another boy in it that's friends with the daughter.
That would make sense.
Got you.
I haven't seen that film, so
it's not bad. You know what? It's not bad.
Yeah. But yeah, this is what I would say is your classic comedy horror camp slasher. So if you were thinking like, this is like a summer camp, that's what I was expecting. Yeah, it is that. And it's very much, there's lots of like, I would say, loving nods to especially Friday the 13th, but other kinds of things as well. So there is a camp counselor called Jason. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Friday the 13th, the serial killer from the second film, not in the first film, is Jason Voorhees. And in the first film, the killer who does all the murders is actually his mother, Pamela Voorhees, which a lot of people don't realize. But what's funny is that he's like in his 20s, and he should be going to, like, I don't know, a law intern or something, but he's decided, no, he wants to go back to this camp because he really enjoys it. And his mum is driving him, and she's like, are you sure? Like, wouldn't you rather go and do like
Be
a
an
real
adult.
job. And I just think that it's really funny that you have this kind of mother-son duo, and the son is called Jason. And yeah, there's not really much to say beyond that. It's enjoyable if you like that kind of thing. I think, it's getting mixed reviews, but I think for this kind of film, it's pretty good. It's watchable. It's very enjoyable.
It's like a silly slasher, like, you know, summer film. Yeah.
And I think there are some bits in it that are really funny. So some like, no, I can't do it justice. I don't have the comic timing. I'm not, but it's very funny. I think what I would have done if I had to give some notes on this film. So the slasher killer wears a mask, a devil mask, and it's quite cool. So if you want to have it, like, just Google it, and the mask itself, as a kind of, slasher kind of look, it's quite cool. It goes down the whole, Scream thing where there's two killers, which that is a spoiler.
I was going to say, oh my God, spoiler for Scream.
But like, oh, okay, but well, I guess, do you know what?
I'm joking. That film's as old as I am, nearly.
It's been out for ages. Like, I just meant a spoiler for this film. But if you do want to watch it, I won't spoil who the killer is. But I will say that both me and Craig thought, imagine if it was his mum, and she's like, do you know what? The only thing that's going to get this, my adult son to stop coming back to this camp is to, which they don't do. But I'm just throwing that out there.
That would be really funny, though.
Yeah, I'm just throwing that out there because I think, no one has really, as far as I know, I've not seen anything where someone has done that with a kind of camp slasher thing.
No, the only thing that I think kind of come close is I think the second season or maybe third season of Only Murders in the Building, which is quite a charming murder mystery show on Disney Plus. I think the third series has a bit of a twist like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like a mother that's like, oh, my son is useless, and like I have to control everything for him by murdering people.
Yeah, and obviously, like, Scream does that in several of the sequels where it's the parent. But I think just in terms of a camp slasher, especially, he's literally called Jason.
Yeah, so it would have been quite funny.
I think it would have been really funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was enjoyable. I think, again, you can see that it's quite low budget. A lot of the kills happen off camera. Because I don't think they could afford to do that.
So maybe quite a good one if you're squeamish then.
But it is violent. So,
okay.
So if that kind of physical violence isn't your thing.
Is it like you can kind of cover your eyes and look away in the moment, or is it like a sustained moments of violence?
Oh, no, you can definitely look away. And like I say,
because I think that is the kind of thing that I could probably enjoy.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like the beloved spoof franchise Scary Movie. Like they kind of almost did that. Like they're still quite violent in a way, but sounds like what I would call a popcorn movie.
Yeah.
Like you go to see it for the fun of watching a film and drinking your big ass drink and eating your popcorn.
Yeah. This is I forget now what it's gone on to, but it's on streaming. So Google it and it might be available. Find it. Yeah. And okay, so then finally, the other slasher that I saw, which is one that I've been excited about for a while, I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yes, you mentioned you were going to see this when we rounded up last time.
Have you seen the original? Or...
I have actually seen I Know What You Did Last Summer. I get it confused with Final Destination and with Scream, like in that, they're all films I watched semi-forcibly at sleepovers.
Yeah.
But I Know What You Did Last Summer is Jennifer Love Hewitt, isn't it?
It is. Yes.
Yes, I have definitely seen this one. And I think I actually remember being quite creeped out. Scream, I definitely found the scariest. I think Scream, the first time I watched that was the one that I was like, oh my God. But I think I was more creeped out by I Know What You Did Last Summer than Final Destination, which is more just, it's kills. Final Destination is a slasher, whereas I remember being a little bit like, oh, by I Know What You Did Last Summer.
I think I Know What You Did Last Summer is a really really cool kind of slasher franchise. It's your classic kind of like 90s film. So it came out in 97, and it's, like you say, it's got like your classic teen actors.
It has the same, I always remember thinking it had the same vibes as Cruel Intentions. Have you ever seen Cruel Intentions?
Oh, yeah. I
fucking love that film. And actually, that's quite gothic. But there's like a set of teen films that are a little bit darker and a little bit grittier that aren't quite like, obviously, I Know What You Did Last Summer is a slasher, but like, they're very cool and they're just so of the moment and they have these iconic actors in them. And I really like, they're the things that come to mind when I think about like being cool in the 90s, which I was not.
Well, so this film, as well as Jennifer Love Hewitt, also stars Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar. This is actually the film that they met on.
I forgot that they were both in this.
Yeah, they're both in this. And obviously Sarah Michelle Gellar is also in, I think, the second.
She's in the second one, isn't she?
Scream film. And she's also in Cruel Intentions, and I forget the name of the actor that's in it, but the person that plays her stepbrother is also in I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah, Ryan Felipe.
Yeah, and in Cruel Intentions, you also have Reese Witherspoon. And so there's like this whole mesh of like, really.
Well, they used to call them the Brat Pack, didn't they? Like, as a sort of like, I mean, I know that was also used for like Charlie Sheen and that lot, but there was like the sort of like, they were the 90s version of it, weren't they?
Yeah, 100%. And so the premise of the original film, so it's set in Southport, North Carolina, at a kind of like port. So it's like a fishing town. And there's this group of teenagers, including the ones, all played by these 90s teen heartthrobs and fan faves.
Well, I just want to say, it's really important that they were also all in the rom-coms. Like, I think it's really important to remember that these were people who were also in the rom-coms. Like, they really were heartthrobs. Like, they were the cool kids.
I mean, especially Jennifer Love Hewitt. Like, she was like
every boy's dream at that point in time.
Yeah. And so it's I think 4th of July. They go and watch the fireworks, and they're driving back, or maybe I can't remember the exact. There's something that they're doing. They're hanging out by the beach, then they're driving back, and they run someone over, and they think that this person is dead, so they throw him into the sea, and then it turns out that he actually wasn't dead, and by throwing him into the sea, they've killed him, and then it's like, oh no, we need to like make a pact that we're never going to reveal this. And then a year later, they all start getting letters that, that anonymous handwritten notes. I know what you did last summer. And then it goes into a classic slasher where one by one they're killed off very violently. And the killer is dressed. Again, it's another iconic outfit in a kind of fisherman's slicker. So if you think like black or grey kind of like fisherman's hat, and then with the all kind of like rubbery, and then like rubber like wellies, so you can't really see who it is, and it's and they have like a fish hook, and it's violent as you would expect from a slasher, but also quite interesting. So this film is directed by Jennifer Caton Robinson, and she also co-wrote the screenplay with Sam Lansky.
Okay.
And this is a kind of sequel/requel. So it is taking place in the same. It is kind of a kind of requel, but it is also a sequel. It's taking place in the same kind of timeline. It takes place in the same town as well, and it features the same kind of iconic fisherman. And the plot is basically 27 years after they're called the Tower Bay murders. The town has been taken over by developers. One person in particular who has kind of financed a lot of industry and and a kind of tourist industry especially, and a real estate industry, and like holiday destinations. So it's like, whereas before you can kind of see it's a small, you know, in the original film it's like a small fishing village. This is that, but also it's more built up and there's more fancy buildings, and there's a lot of tourists. And one of the actors in the film, like their dad is like the kind of like big guy in the town, and he is mega rich. And what
like he's chief financier. Yeah.
And what he's done is he's essentially worked to erase or like make people forget about the original murders that had happened.
Oh, okay. So like whitewashing the town.
Yeah. Because obviously, well, I was going to say people don't want to go to a murder town. Some people would want to go to a murder town, but then lots of people. But you know, I mean, it reminds me of that time that I went to Whitby, and the place that I was staying at. The kind of the woman in charge was a bit, you know, why do people come here for Dracula? You know, I guess some people think of Whitby as like a nice, idyllic, you know, kind of seaside town, and I'm like, yeah, but Dracula spooks.
I did have to explain that to a co-worker recently, and I was like, oh yeah, no, it's not just like the whole thing. I was like, the Abbey, like everything, like sorry, no, Whitby was fully claimed by Stoker.
Yes. So it's essentially, then it follows the same kind of plot. So you have this group of teenagers. I guess they're slightly older, so they're probably in their like early 20s. It's the engagement party of two of the people in the group. Two of the other people are kind of they were exes and they've come back, and then they get together with another friend who they used to be friends with and then kind of drifted apart. And then so the five of them go off and they're doing, you know, all this stuff, and then they're messing around in the road where they've gone to watch the fireworks, and they make this car swerve and it falls off. And then again, you know, it turns out that they could have maybe saved this person, but they didn't. And they all not only do they make this pact that they won't tell anyone what happened, so they ring the police and then they drive off and pretend that they weren't there. And then the guy whose dad is like the big honcho is like, he works with and bribes the police officer to like make it all like disappear. And
oh my god, it's like the Murdoch murders. So I wonder if that inspired it a little bit.
Possibly, yeah, because it is definitely about like that kind of rich people coming in, taking over, and then erasing the kind of local community.
If you're listening, you don't know what that is. There's a recently like closed case in the US about a town that was basically dominated by this family called the Murdochs. They were in the legal system, they had a lot of money, and they basically ran the town. Their younger son basically caused someone to die on a boating accident, and they essentially got him away with it scot-free. And then later down the line, the dad unfortunately shot and killed the younger son and his wife. It's a big story about corruption and things like that, but there's a great Netflix documentary about it. But that it's shown a big light on the way that the American system allows people like that to take control in a particular town.
Yeah, if you have money, you can do.
Yeah, basically, if you've got money and status.
Yeah. So obviously, the death is reported, but any connection to any of those people is erased. Then it skips ahead to a year later. The couple that were engaged, their engagement did not last. So another scene that you'll find funny. So we return to the person that had come in for the previous engagement party, where she's now going in for like a bridal shower. And I'm like, oh, this must be the same couple. And then that she gestures to her fiance who comes over, and I'm like, that person is a different race.
What a different man.
Like, that is like, I know 100%.
If you knew it was a different man.
This is a different man. But I was so confused because I was like, what? So in the space of a year, she has broken off her engagement and then gotten together with this other person. And so then they all start receiving these anonymous notes, and they look the same. And what I think was really interesting is she flew in, she met someone on the plane who also happened to be a kind of horror murder podcaster who was going to the town to record an episode about the murders that had happened 27 years before.
That's not a new trope. Obviously Only Murders in the Building does that, and there was recently a show where I can't remember what it's called, but it's essentially a comedy show where a famous podcaster, male podcaster, is going to this town and island to try and to do a podcast about this unsolved murder, and they basically fall into, you know, all of this kind of like chaos. So it's not necessarily a new trope, but like I quite like that acknowledgement that if these things had happened, if something like I Know What You Did Last Summer had happened in reality, there would be podcasters going there. Like there is podcasters going to these places. Like you've only got to look at everybody descending on that tiny town in Australia for the mushroom murders recently. Like, people do this stuff.
People are I think there is a grey area between being interested and wanting to help, and then being like obsessive and overstepping. But I think so there's a lot of, obviously at the beginning they're all like, well, is this a prank? Is this a joke? Then they start, you know, maybe it's her, the podcaster. Is she doing this to us? Who is doing this to us? The killer looks the same because they're in that same fisherman slicker, because obviously that's, you know, that's why. And you're kind of like, is it because of her podcast, or like what happens? This is a spoiler, so if you don't want any like spoilers, then skip ahead to the next film. But it's not the podcaster, because she's actually the person who gets killed first, which I think I think it's interesting, because I was quite enjoying her being in there. Although she had those horrible, you know, those like really thin eyebrows.
Oh, sperm brows.
That are starting to come back. She had those, and I was like,
leave those in the 90s.
No, that's one thing we don't want to bring back. Well, among many things, but she's the first killer. Then obviously, so if you haven't seen the original film or the sequel, which stars Brandy,
I still know what you did last summer.
I still know what you did last summer. We won't talk about the third one because no one does. But if you haven't seen the second one is pretty decent. Freddie Prinze Jr., Jennifer Love Hewitt, and also Brandy, they're still alive.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So unfortunately, you know, as myself as a Michelle Gellar fan, she did die in the first film, but you know, that's fine. Some of the kids go to Jennifer Love Hewitt, and they're like, she's now like a lecturer, I think. She lectures on trauma, which okay, great. She goes to her and is like, you know, what did you do and what should we do? And she's like, I'll give you some advice, but I'm not coming back to that town. And then it turns out that Freddie Prinze Jr. still lives in the town. He owns a bar, and he employs one of the girls from this group.
Okay.
So they go to him, and then he's like, oh, okay, like, this is what we did. And then, oh, you've been to see Jennifer, except obviously they use their actual names. But, so you've got both of these, like, still alive icons reprising their roles, which is quite fun. And then also, as a spoiler, one of the girls who was the kind of, it's not really prom queen, but you know where, you know, in some like American towns where they have like a parade, and then
like the you know, Mayflower queen or something like that, like the barn dance princess.
So in the original film, that was Sarah Michelle Gellar, and then in this film, it's the woman who is the girl who gets engaged, who did, like, you know, she has a dream/nightmare where she is visited by the ghost of Sarah Michelle Gellar. So
that's a great way to do a cameo.
Yeah.
Did you have a moment in the cinema where you were like, oh?
Well, I was like, because obviously I kept seeing her at like all the premieres and stuff. and she's doing all this promo. And I'm like, oh, well, it must just be because she's in the first one, and also she's married to Freddie Prinze Jr. and they have kids, and she's probably going to be there anyway. But then I saw this, and I was like, okay, all right. And she's back in a kind of like tiara and dress and everything. So yeah, I think that was quite nice. She is still dead, but she manages to kind of come back, which I think is quite nice. So then I guess to skip ahead, do you want to know who is the actual killer?
I do want to know who the killer is.
Okay, so again, like if you like, this is your last chance to like skip ahead if you don't want to get spoiled. So the boys get killed. So there's 5 people. The one who keeps getting engaged, the one who flew in, the girl that they kind of lost touch with, and then the ex-fiance, and then the ex-boyfriend. The boys get killed, and then the girl who they had kind of lost touch with, she gets in touch with Freddie Prinze Jr. and he's like, go on my boat. Oh no, actually they go
always really safe to do not
on his boat. They go on one of the ex-fiance, the rich one who had his dad is kind of like rich. So the 3 girls are on the boat, and then suddenly the killer's on the boat, and you're like, what the hell? And it's because it's the girl who had they had kind of like lost touch with.
Yeah.
She's mad because it turns out she knew the person that they killed. She had a bad time. I think her dad had lost a lot of money, and then he left, and then she was like getting bullied and all this stuff, and then she ended up needing to, she was a lot poorer than some of the other kids. She ended up in church, and where she met this other boy, and he kind of like helped her, and then obviously then they killed her. They killed him. So she was mad, and she's like, all this kind of stuff. She tries to kill the other 2 girls. Freddie Prinze Jr. rocks up in his boat, they manage to get her. She's overboard, and then he brings them both back. And then it turns out that, oh no, wait, there are 2 killers, and it's also Freddie Prinze Jr.
I knew it was going to be Freddie Prinze Jr. when you said he was still in the goddamn town.
because he's mad, because he's like, we went through this thing. This is what this town is about. This is my history, and they're trying to erase it. So if you try and erase it, I'm just going to bring it back. And so he's been working with this girl. And then that's when Jennifer Love Hewitt comes back and manages to kill him. And the film ends with the 2 girls coming out of hospital because they're quite badly injured, but they're still alive, having a drink by the beach. And it's quite cringe, but in a funny way. Just having that kind of, like, let's stay friends and like all that kind of stuff.
Nothing brings you together like attempted murder.
and then it's kind of like, well, did anyone actually see the body of the other girl? And they're all like, no. And then the kind of mid-credit scene, Jennifer Love Hewitt rocks up at Brandy's house and is like, bitch, do you want to help me again?
We're back in action.
Yeah, we're back. So it's got like 4 people like that come back to this franchise in really interesting ways, because I think it's not, there's not often. Yeah, I think like in the Scream franchise, Neve Campbell has always said her red light, she doesn't want to be the killer.
Yeah. But
I think it's interesting that they make Freddie the killer.
Well, I also think having Jennifer Love Hewitt's character have moved on, be an expert in trauma, and then having his character be like stuck in the same town, almost living in his own notoriety and his own importance from what happened. Like, there's been quite a lot of these revival franchises that have brought their final girls back in a way, and it's very different from like the Jamie Lee Curtis sort of like wounded, traumatized final girl. And I know Beetlejuice doesn't really fit into this, but then obviously Winona Ryder's character in Beetlejuice, like you've got all of these like 80s and 90s quote unquote final girls, weird girls, whatever it might be. And I think having not only the final girl, but also he's not really the final boy. That's a slightly different trait, but having him be unable to move on and perpetuating the same violence, there's something quite significant to be said there. As well as it being a good twist, like I think it's more powerful than if, say, Neve Campbell was the killer in Scream.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant, and obviously they do have that kind of, because there are multiple survivors, so they do have a little bit more freedom, I guess. But yeah, I think Jennifer Love Hewitt, she was really nervous about doing this film. I think she, like a lot of women in the 90s and the early 2000s, she got a lot of horrible abuse that was focused around her physical appearance.
Yeah.
And I think she was worried that, you know, obviously now she's a lot older, and I think, you know,
I will just say, if you have been one of the people that have been like shitting on Jennifer Love Hewitt online recently after her red carpet photos, she looks awesome.
Well, that's what I was going to say. She looks so
awesome.
Good. She's so good in this film, and she looks so good. Obviously, it's not all about looks. She's a really good actor.
Yeah, she's so talented.
Her performance in this is so good. And I think that part of the ending, so she said that one of the things that she wanted to, when she came back to this franchise, she wanted to make sure that her character had hope and that it ended with hope. And I think that it really does. And I like that she teams up again with Brandy. So yeah, I think Jennifer Love Hewitt, you're great. And
what an icon. What an icon of our age.
Icon. Yeah.
And also Brandy. I really like Brandy.
Yeah. So for me, I would say this was a great film. And yeah, like obviously, if you're not good with physical violence, then this is not the film for you. So sorry, Lauren. Yeah. But again,
I mean, I struggled with the first two.
Yeah. But that's why I've gone into such a spoiler heavy kind of summary. Because I knew that you would want to know what's happening with these 90s icons.
Yeah. More to come as well. Quite a lot. I mean, obviously the Buffy reboot. There's quite a lot of stuff that's being kind of revived and brought back. And I'm tentative, you know, like I enjoyed Wednesday season 1, season 2's coming out soon. There's been a couple of things that I was quite worried about them being revived, and actually they found really I mean, Beetlejuice 2 wasn't amazing, but I still thought it was funny and it had the same heart of the original. And I think actually a lot of people forgot that Beetlejuice. I think people remembered the Beetlejuice cartoon.
Yeah.
Not the film.
Yeah.
But I do think, yes, we are, it's a little bit tired and can we have some new stories, please? But I have been quite impressed with the way that people have been reimagining these like 90s iconic movie moments.
Yeah. I mean, I will say there are 10 Friday the 13th films. The 9th one is by far the worst one, but the 10th one is so good. So I don't mind, you know, how many there are, because so basically the 10th one is in space. And it's just imagine a slasher in space. In space. Sure. And you're like, what? But it works and it's so good. And so I don't mind. But the thing is that I think the thing about doing these kinds of sequels or requels or reboots and all this kind of stuff, you have to think about what you're going to do. Like, you can't just do the same thing. You have to do it differently or add something, like whether that's a fresh perspective or the characters that you're bringing, or it has to speak to our current period, and I think it has
to speak to the moment.
I think this film is very, very watchable and enjoyable as a good slasher.
Right, so they were is that the right? They were this month's films. Want to hit us with your retrospectives for July?
I do. So I'll try. I know this episode might go a little bit long, but so I'll try and keep this short. But I have 2 retrospectives, and they're both kind of themed around Faustian pacts.
Ooh, we love a Faustian pact on this podcast.
So the first film I'm going to recommend is Faust from 1926. It's directed by F.W. Murnau, based on Goethe's Faust. So it is a silent classic. I think it's one of Manel's great ones, and definitely good. Like if you're not good with like violence or that kind of gore and stuff, it's very like a lot of silent films. I think it's definitely very good. I went to see this recently in York,
awesome.
The York Picture House, because it had a live score.
Oh, I love it when they do that.
And this is why I wanted to recommend it, because I love going to see silent films with live scores. And one of my favorite, when we were in Prague, we went to a screening of the silent Phantom of the Opera, which had a live score that was essentially like French rap and dubstep, but it worked. This one was done by a person called Hugo Max, and he had a violin and kind of percussion stuff that he used. It was really good. And I always like it, you know, when you go to, because often we don't know what the scores are with these films. So I think that it's really interesting. You know, you go to one, you can go and see like the same film, but it might be different.
I went to, about 10 years ago now, probably went to I think it was the 1928 black and white Fall of the House of Usher, and similar sort of thing. They had some idea of what the score would sound like, but not completely. And like, that's probably the only time that version of the film will ever play with that music. And I do think it's something really special, because it does change, it so drastically changes the way you watch a film, the music that goes along with it, especially silent films.
100%. And I think if you're someone who likes to go to the theatre as well as to watch movies, but like maybe like theatre tickets, you know, they are quite a bit more expensive. This is a nice way to kind of feel like you're going to like an evening kind of I mean, it is a performance that you're watching, that's maybe a little bit more affordable as well. So just as a recommendation, watch Faust, because Faust is really great. Oh, as a funny story, which I'll come back to, but watch Faust because it's really great. But also go and watch a live score, because they're really unique.
I think if you're in the UK, over the next couple of months, they are doing, I don't think they're live scores, but they are reimagined. So they're putting, one of the ones they're doing is they're putting Nosferatu to Radiohead. And things like that. So have a look out. I think they're coming to quite a few cinemas around the country, and there's a couple of different films.
And I think that I have seen those, and I think they are also in America as well.
Cool.
Or maybe they have been in America. But it's just something to keep an eye out on. And okay, this is just my quick funny story. So when we were in the cinema to watch this film, so next to us was an older gentleman, you know, seemed really nice. While we were waiting for the film to start, he had his book out. He was reading his book. He had his phone with his phone torch on so that he could read. And I was like, oh, this is really cute. You know, he's out to, you know, watch a film, reading his book. Cool. As soon as so Hugo Max comes out, goes onto the stage, immediately starts, and then I see out the corner of my eye, like this old gentleman, he's like, oh, right, puts his phone down and, you know, closes his book. And then I can just hear this noise. I'm like, what is this noise? But because it started at the same time as the film, I was like, oh, maybe it's like feedback, or like maybe it's part of the performance. But it was really distracting. And then, so if you have seen Faust, or if you haven't, the beginning bit is set in heaven with an angel and a demon, and it's probably one of the most famous bits in the film. And this was all happening while that was happening, and so this lasted for quite a while, and then suddenly I can just hear this advert for malware. Does your computer need malware? And people a few rows in front of us were like looking at us, and I'm like, it's this man. He's obviously in his like rush to turn off his phone. He's obviously clicked on a video and it's been playing, and I think he's also potentially fallen asleep already. So we had to kind of like, I mean, I tried to say, excuse me, wasn't working. So Craig was like, your phone's on. He was very like, oh, sorry, and turned it off immediately. And then I was like, okay, so that's what all that noise was. But and then,
I thought you were going to say that he had fallen asleep.
I think he had. He had, but it's so surprising because it was so loud, and I don't know. It was in his lap. I don't understand how he didn't hear. I'm gonna throw my father under the bus. We went to see Rumours, which is a Fleetwood Mac tribute act, a very, very good Fleetwood Mac tribute act. If you like Fleetwood Mac, absolutely go and see them. They're amazing. My dad turned around to me in the middle and said, I only need 2 songs. And I was like, Fleetwood Mac has been pumped into my ears since I was a small child by my mum's family. How have you been married to my mum for like this long and you don't know more than a few? Fell asleep. The man fell asleep in a full band rendition of Fleetwood Mac. And I was like, Dad, like literally had to jab him. And I was like, the guy is drumming his heart out. The girl that sings the Stevie parts is doing all the like, you know, I'm not going to attempt to sing like Stevie Nicks. My dad's falling asleep. I was like, what? How can people fall asleep with that much noise? I'm almost envious. So I will say, I just as another quick story like that. So my dad, who is currently, oh my gosh, how old is he? Like, I want to say 81, 82.
Yeah, because his party wasn't last year, was it? It was the year before.
Yeah, 81. He's 81. And he does now have hearing aids. And the story that I'm going to tell you was before he got hearing aids. And we have been bugging him for ages.
To be fair, my dad also has hearing aids, but they were on during this concert.
This was about, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. And my parents very indulgently had booked us tickets to go and see a stage performance of The Turn of the Screw.
I know this story.
They like theatre and they like doing things. I like spooky things. So they bought me these tickets. We went there. My dad falls asleep and then he's snoring. And I'm like, how? Like, how? But yeah, like, I just hope that, thanks to that man for turning his phone off.
I hope he had a good time.
I have a good story. And I mean, I did miss some of the bit at the beginning, which is a bit of a shame, but the rest of it was good. So yes, this is a public service announcement. Make sure that your phone is on silent and off. Turn your volume down. Turn your volume down. Okay, yeah. So the next film that I'm going to recommend to you, as I said, also about Faustian pacts. It's called Heart of Stone, and it's from 1950. It's also a German film. Obviously, they're kind of like, so Faust is pre-World War II and Heart of Stone is post-World War II. Yeah. And it was made by a company called DEFA, which was the kind of Soviet kind of
so it's like a West German film.
Yeah. So it does have, like, you can tell.
Or East Germany. Which way round was that? East Germany. The Soviet bit.
But they're trying to like rebuild the image of Germany and be like,
well, that was a massive push throughout the USSR, was in the 50s in particular, was films and art.
And so this film has recently been re-released by Eureka on Blu-ray. So you can, I don't think it, I don't know in terms of regions what it is, but I think you can buy it because these are films that a lot of people haven't seen from this kind of like early DEFA films. So, and this is a really interesting kind of film, and it does that whole like, let's look at like what do we like about, like, what's good about Germany and what can we promote. So this is based on a fairy tale of the same name, so Heart of Stone, which was originally published by a German writer called Wilhelm Hauff in 1826. And he was obviously massively influenced by Goethe, who wrote the original Faust, well, one of the original Faust, the German Faust, and also the Brothers Grimm. And it's about a a poor boy in a German town. Well, actually, in the Black Forest. It's set in the Black Forest. And in the forest is Dutch.
It's a fairy tale.
Yeah, in the forest is Dutch Michael, and also, and I forget his name now, but like another little kind of elf thing that you can kind of go and get wishes. He goes and gets his 3 wishes.
Leprechaun-y type thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I forget the name, and I feel bad because I did like a whole like thing for this release, and I have forgotten now all the characters' names. But they're both kind of creepy and gothic, and it's really gothic. And he gets 3 wishes, doesn't really work out, and then he goes to Dutch Michael, who's like, well, I'll make you rich, and you just have to give me your heart, and I'll swap it for a heart of stone. So he swaps his heart out, and he becomes a heartless capitalist. So you can see the kind of communist kind of and also fairy tale like morality there. But yeah, it's just really fun, and the forest thing is like really cool. So they make like the forest kind of move and creak, and it's really creepy in that kind of gothic-y way. So yeah, like if you can watch this film, and if you're into Faustian bargainy
or Soviet cinema, because that's like a whole genre. I mean, a lot of Soviet
well, this is definitely German. So it's just, you know, it's definitely German. And Deva is a German company, but it's East German who are obviously under the control of the Soviets. But yeah, like really fun, really interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah. Fantastic. And something that I'm happy to be a part of. So it was fun to do.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I'm glad that Eureka is still bringing these kind of like semi-lost films to light, because a lot of them are really weird and wonderful.
Yeah.
And fulfill the cravings of people like me who are too scared to watch horror but want something creepy.
Yeah. So, Lauren, that brings us to the end of my films. Do you have a pick for us this week?
So I have 2 things that I want to recommend. One that is fun, and one that I didn't know I was going to recommend until I watched it literally a few days ago.
Okay.
It's a bit more serious. So I'll start with a fun one. And this might not surprise anybody, but the film that I would like to recommend is K-pop Demon Hunters.
Yes.
Which is an animated Netflix film. It is so good. It's got some fantastic Korean folklore elements to it. So the demons of the film title are all inspired by Korean folklore. There's a brilliant derpy tiger that is inspired by traditional Korean art. And just overall, it's visually very, very satisfying. The story is really well done. If you are a K-pop fan, or if you're just a good pop music fan, like the songs are really good. The song is probably going to be the first K-pop song. So the main song from the film Golden is probably going to be the first K-pop song since Psy's Gangnam Style to make #1 in the UK.
Okay.
Yeah. It's one of those films that it doesn't try and tell you too much. There's lots of stuff it leaves unanswered. So also quite good for a franchise.
Well, I have actually seen, I've seen it advertised, and I've seen like stuff about it, and I think they've said that they are doing a sequel.
Yes, yeah. And I actually do think you would like it, Mary. The design and art is done by, so one of the designers is called Mingjo Chen, who has done a lot of art for comic books and things like that. It's very well designed. It's got a lot of really conscious nods to pop culture and folklore. The end song that the demon boy band do is just fantastic. It's got Gregorian chants in it. And I will confess, I found out that they were inspired by the debut song of my favorite group, EXO. So I loved it even more. But we were watching it and I was like, this is like Mama by EXO. But it's just very it's very good. It manages to do that thing which Disney's kind of lost lately, where it's fun, but not twee or cliche or overly didactic. The concept is basically that these 3 girls, Rumi, Mira, and Zoe, are a little bit like vampire slayers. That every generation, there are 3 girls who are born who have the power of hunters. and their job is to protect people from demons. And they maintain the Hunmoon, which is the barrier between the demon world and the human world. And they strengthen it with song, essentially. So you see the very beginning, there's these 3 women in traditional Korean shaman and warrior outfits. And it is also partially inspired by shamanism. There's a lot of song and dance in Korean shamanism and Korean traditional dance. They basically create this barrier, and then every generation has 3 hunters. So they are the titular K-pop demon hunters. And obviously now the idea is that they need to be like K-pop stars, and that they might finally be able to fully strengthen the Hunmoon and keep demons away forever. I won't give too much more away for the plot. It's not a super long movie. It's just really enjoyable. The songs will get stuck in your head. It's got some great design choices. It's funny. And it does that thing that I like, where it is critical of fandom and it plays on the negatives of the mass explosion of K-pop over the last, and it's called the Hallyu wave, over particularly the last 10 years and the way that that can impact you. But it also celebrates the positives and the strengths of having that social connection through music and finding meaning through music and having an idol in a very positive sense rather than negative sense. So it's balanced. It's not overly moralistic. It's not particularly didactic. And the girls themselves are just really fun. They're well voiced. And I just really enjoyed it. And I've been singing the songs for like 3 weeks now.
I have seen that, and I have been thinking of you and of Emily as well. Another one of our K-pop friend.
Yes, I saw the trailer and I was like, was this made specifically for me?
Yeah.
It's also the voice of the main guy. So Jinu the demon is one of my favorite actors, An Hyo-sup. And I was like, oh, wow. And they play when the boy band appears, they play an EXO song. And it's just if you're a K-drama fan, the jokes, the kind of like nostalgia jokes and the comedy beats, they're just really, really funny. Like, you don't need to know anything about K-pop or K-drama to watch it and enjoy it. But if you do, like, you will be laughing out loud because it is really, really funny in that way. Like, it doesn't take itself too seriously, but it also doesn't cheapen anything. So yeah, really, really fun film. Would highly recommend it, particularly if you just want something to like have a bit of mindfulness time too. The second thing I want to recommend is the 2nd season of Shiny Happy People, which just dropped on Amazon Prime. So the 1st season of Shiny Happy People, which Mary and I have talked about between the 2 of us in length, is all about the Duggar family of, I believe in the end, 19 Kids and Counting, which was a American show on the network TLC. And the 1st season of the documentary essentially looked into the allegations against the eldest Duggar son, Josh, who had been accused of molestation and sexual violence against young women, including his own sisters. And it was all very much kind of covered up. And essentially the documentary uncovers the larger religious body that they are a part of, known as the IBLP, the Institute for Basic Life Principles. And it's essentially exposing this very Christian nationalist, I would say very right-wing, very patriarchal religious movement that was at its very core hiding some very unpleasant things around the abuse of children, treatment of women. I thought it was a brilliant 1st season of the documentary. I know we both watched it and had lots of thoughts about how that had become ingrained in contemporary culture, didn't we? The 2nd season is a bit shorter. It's only 3 or 4 episodes. It is about a youth ministry called Teen Mania that ran during the 2000s. And it is looking into why it was so popular, how it operated, again, uncovering some really, really problematic stuff that they did, but also really spotlighting why we're in the current socio-political moment we are, in terms of how the Christian right has been building this narrative of Christians will once again be persecuted, and we must prepare ourselves for persecution, and that things like gay marriage being legalized are a direct attack on like family values, you know, the stuff you've heard before, but essentially uncovering something really sinister that was going on. I was really shocked. I did not know that this was happening. I knew this sort of teen ministry existed. I knew that they were sending people on missions, and these missions were, well, I think all missions are problematic. But I knew that they were sending them on these kind of like semi-problematic missions. What I didn't know was that they were running essentially a cult campus where you paid to go for a year before you went to college, and you learnt essentially how to be a Christian martyr.
Yeah.
And this was happening in the 2000s.
I didn't know that the second season was out, and you told me, so I went and watched it.
Did you watch it?
I watched it. But I actually don't think I've told you what I'm writing, but I'm currently working on an essay that is about martyrs and that whole, you know,
oh boy,
suffering, and you know how much there is value in suffering, and you should suffer because Jesus suffered, and also Jesus suffered with a cross. Here's a massive cross, literally go and drag it around. So I found it, it was quite it is that kind of, I really like these two recommendations because they're really different in terms of like the traditional like horror film. Like I think it's great to get more like animated stuff in there. There's lots of really good and cool like horror animation, but also we both love documentaries, and I think this is something, you know, there is a horror. There is if you think about how much religion there is in horror, even just as we were talking about like possession films and the possession genre, it's so much of it is Christian. Well, and I think
wouldn't be. Sorry, you finish.
Well, just the themes that I think that are tied up in there, like control, patriarchy, evangelism, martyrdom, suffering. These are all things that actually whether or not you do believe in possession, the actual things around those narratives are things that also happen in real life, and they are real life horrors.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And my prediction is that in the next couple of years, we will get horror films and thriller films set in these types of locations, because in the last couple of years, we've had the exposure of the troubled teen industry. There's been 2 documentaries on Netflix. There's also Paris Hilton, who very publicly has come out and talked about the horrific trauma that she endured at the troubled teen institution that she was locked up in. There's been some, you know, revealed that people died in them, that, you know, all these horrendous things that happened. And essentially what happened at this Teen Mania RNR Academy was not dissimilar to the things that people were doing at the troubled teen institutes. And they're essentially run by the same type of people. They're run by white male Christian nationalists who have far-right ideals, who, you know, think we need to get ready for the culture war, and are basically forcing young people through physical hardship and trauma to turn them into a certain type of person.
You know, I've already seen a film like this, and the name is escaping me. But I will mention it at the start of the next episode, because it is this kind of it's a cult like thing, but it is specifically about it's a cult of personality, but mixed with
like, you know, we had a slew of cult type horror after the NXIVM. The cult, the NXIVM cult was exposed, and then obviously we've also had quite a few cults exposed over the last, you know, there's been some really awful things that have come out. You know, there's the they call it the TikTok dance cult. They've just raided their home. But I do think I think there's been a slew over the last couple of years, which is upsetting because it's all true, but these documentaries that have highlighted, and I think it also then aligns with things like the Ruby Frankie case, you know, the type of violence she was enacting on her children, it's all shaped around the same ideologies. And I wouldn't be surprised if we go from documentary to horror movie in the next couple of years. And I think as a documentary, it's very well done. It's very respectful. Most of the people that are talking heads in it are actual people who went to the camp, who were members of this honor academy, and it's their real experiences and their journey and how they've like fought back as adults. It's not a Channel 5 documentary, which is what Mary and I call it when it's like a sort of salacious, you know, really amps up the drama, and it's not necessarily respectful to the victims or to the situation. So yeah, I thought, you know, I wanted to recommend K-pop Demon Hunters because I thought it was really fun and it's very gothic. It reminded me a lot of Catherine Spooner's Happy Gothic that she talks about in her post-millennial Gothic book. And then I think this Shiny Happy People is a really great example of the latest in this trend of documentaries that are unpacking horrors of real life that I think is very, very reminiscent of 18th century Gothic, of, you know, trying to show people what people can really do and humanizing it, making you realize that it could happen to you and it could happen to anybody. But yeah, obviously if you know, K-pop Demon Hunters, I would say there's nothing really there that might be triggering. There are definitely some triggers in Shiny Happy People. If you've experienced religious trauma or religious abuse, I definitely would say approach with caution. But particularly, I think if you're not American, I think it's a really important insight. I feel like I much more understand why we are where we are after watching that documentary. And yeah, even though I mean, you obviously know a lot more than me, you follow it more closely, but I feel like for us to not know that was going on, I don't know, it just feels like quite a significant thing to modern culture.
100%. Like I think we will be uncovering stuff that was hidden for decades.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know this one went on a little bit long, but I think we had lots to talk about.
Yes. If you're still with us, thank you. And hope you've enjoyed the films. As I said at the start, if you have any of your own recommendations that you want, we have a new section that we will be starting every episode with Audience Recommend. So do let us know. And
please do.
Just to finish with what I'm looking forward to next. And hopefully if they're good, then I will also talk about them with you. Weapons. I don't know if you've heard of this film.
I've seen the poster. And something about the poster really creeps me out.
I know, yeah.
Don't like it.
Yeah, no, I know, but I need to know what it's about.
Yes, I saw the poster and I was like, I need Mary to tell me what that film's about.
So that one, and then also Together, which...
Is that the Dave Franco?
Yes. The Dave Franco and Alison Brie, who are real life
married in real life.
And this film is about a codependent couple.
I definitely need you to tell me about that one because the buzz has been really interesting.
I love all of the I'll talk about this when we talk about the film, but I love I'll just leave it there. I love the promo for this film. It might be some of my favorite like film promo. But okay, so that's what you have to look forward to. Get in touch if you have any recommends. If you like this episode, then make sure you like and subscribe, and get in touch if you have any comments. Do share with friends, and in the meantime, until next time, stay safe and stay spooky.
Stay safe and stay spooky, y'all.